Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ammon's Bogus Hangout. We're a little bit late starting today and get kicked off right off the bat and have Zara introduce herself. Zara?
Hi, everyone. My name is Zara Altair, and I do semantic content writing.
Thomas?
Hi, my name is Thomas Ickel, founder of Blueprint Marketing, and I sit on the board of a few companies.
And I'm Bill Slosky of SEO by the Sea, and I'm the Director of SEO Research for Go Fish Digital. So I got an email this morning from somebody who was asking me, how do you get started at SEO, about learning all the things you need to know? So how did you get started learning, Zara?
Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. It's been around for a while. And here's what I like about it. Still like about it. When Ammon was talking about starting something like this, he said what he loved about going to conferences was all the spontaneous conversations that happened in hallways and in pubs and things like that. And he wanted to have a hangout where people talked about real things. So that is one way. And before Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout started, I was paying attention to David Amerland. I was paying attention to Ammon, of course, and I was also paying attention to Google Webmasters. So, I still believe that even though I am not a technical SEO, as it were, that it is important for people who write content to understand how that content is going to impact the website and what the writers can do to help facilitate the SEO response to the content on the website.
Okay, so let's get a slightly different take on that or approach. Thomas, how did you learn SEO?
So I learned SEO from basically going to a lot of conferences. I read a lot of blogs and met a lot of people. I went to a lot of search web conferences. I basically a lot of trial and error in the very beginning, sadly. But also following people and getting to know people that were leaders in the search industry. I basically I remember Distilled had a Distilled University. I did that, and then I started asking questions on Moz Q&A, and within a week I started switching over to just answering them because it was very easy to learn the answer as well as answer it, to be honest. A lot of them weren't very hard to do. So basically I've learned a lot from patents that Bill has been kind enough to distill down for the world, and I've learned a ton from, I think, just keeping in touch with everyone in the industry. People will talk very quickly about new things that are of importance, or sometimes they're not as important as you might think at the time, but you'll always get to know what's happening in search. And I basically, my background is chemical engineering. So when I went over to tech, it was a big change. But it came pretty easily and naturally to me. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy it to this day. And learning SEO was something I was not good at for the first 6 months at all, and definitely getting better every day, I hope. Definitely learning new things every day is fun.
There's a statement that goes, one of the best places to learn about the web is on the web.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a corollary to that, which is one of the worst places to learn about the web is on the web. So how do you tell the difference? Zara?
Gosh, how do you tell the difference? Well, for me, for me, it's like anything. It's personal recommendations, and also the more that you learn, the more you notice when that information is off base or doesn't ring true. And I think that's it. It's like anything that you're learning on the web, you want to check that it's some kind of verifiable source. And that
So you approach everything with some level of skepticism.
I do.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean, because other words, you know how I got interested in SEO was must have been like end of 2012, beginning of 2013. I was taking this leadership course, and there were people who taught different aspects of the leadership course. And there was this fellow who taught the SEO component, and he was doing the old keyword stuffing SEO stuff. And I was like, no way, no way. I wouldn't read stuff like this. You know, I it didn't make any sense. So I started going. I went online, and that's how I met David Amerland and Lee Smallwood was very active then. Lee's very happily teaching scuba diving in Malta now. But I just connected with people who knew, and somehow I met Ammon. That's kind of the trail that happened with and learning how to look at other SEO information and to verify it and check it out with a grain of salt, because it's like any industry. If you go online to find out information, you're going to get misinformation. So you have to verify the source and what the recommendations are.
So Thomas, what do you use as a litmus test?
Critical thinking. I try to apply. So like,
Critical thinking, it is.
you know, like we've spoken about before on the show, there can be very famous people in this industry that say the wrong things and teach the wrong things, unfortunately. So you can't always put what you're told as fact. You have to actually apply real, is it logical? Does this make sense? And then data. You have to figure it out that way. So is there data to back up what's being said? Is it just a hypothetical guess that's being promoted to you? So I think on the web, that's what people see a lot of, is a lot of guessing. I know I see it a lot on message boards, and I got to the top 10 on Moz Q&A pretty easily by backing up stuff with data. And that's how you get thumbs up. So or if people like what you say. So but making sure that there's some sort of a documented proof of what the person's saying. Now, some good advice might come without documented proof if it's anecdotal, or if it's just plain basic advice that isn't, I think if it starts with, I think you should do this to the site, then, there might not be a case study with it. But if you look at again, Bill's a great source for patents. If you look at patents, if you look at the things that are all the data out there and what is working, what's not working, there can be some people that are wildly successful because of PR, and they sort of catch themselves into a flywheel effect and then give out sometimes bad information. Not all the time, but it gets through. And I think that through my life in business and in going through a lot of schooling, I've been lucky enough where it's kind of easy to spot. Not all the time. I mean, I've definitely been fooled before. But and also speaking to people offline, conferences, speaking to friends about search is always good. And if they have anything to say that doesn't quite add up, ask them where they got the data. Challenge that. Most of the time, they're happy to try to prove you wrong.
There's a lot of value in talking shop with people who are interested in
There is.
what you work in. If talk with people from meetups.
Yep.
Talk with people at conferences. Talk
Yeah.
with people on Hangouts who are doing the same type of job that you're doing.
I think another source for information backed up with data is Eric Inga. When he does research and then he publishes the research along with the data.
When I see somebody who's blogging about something that's obviously for some other purpose and he's telling you use it in a different way and he doesn't provide any supporting information about it. It's like Brian Dean telling you that you take query refinements from the ends of search results or autocomplete suggestions from search boxes and add them to pages in their LSI keywords. LSI keywords is nonsense.
Yeah, it's give it up.
and it's like, okay, I can see why you failed out your PhD from how you approach SEO.
Yeah. No, like there's a lot of great people out there too, like Cray Gruber is a great SEO that puts a lot of work into his case studies to show exactly what he did to achieve those results, in my opinion.
He's combining a lot of information, but it's not in negative ways. It's very thoughtful, actually.
Yeah, I agree. In what is it? Hobo SEO. That's a great spot to get.
Sean Anderson, yeah.
Sean Anderson, yeah, he's a great guy and a great spot to get. And SEO by the Sea, obviously, wonderful spot to get quality information that's always backed up with data. And I was very lucky. Like I knew
you didn't follow up with what I'm used to hearing, which is how much does it cost for me to post something on your website?
Yeah, no. I learned that very early on that you shouldn't be buying links.
Oh my gosh, that's the same as the people who send the emails and say, I have this article which is something, right? They have the title of the article.
How to succeed
We
at
want
business
you
school.
to share it on your website. I'm like,
Can I
why?
share it on your website?
It has nothing to do with my website.
Right. My website has nothing to do with business schools. Why do you want to share your article on my website?
Yeah.
Were you dropped on your head as a small child?
I don't even engage in discussion with them anymore. I just delete.
Yeah. It's to the point where the question is so ridiculous. It's why they're even bothering to ask you.
Yeah.
I think they're just sending it out through some software that hopefully they're not doing it all by hand.
Yeah, well, they're not figuring it out yet.
But they're like a monkey shaking a coconut tree, hoping for some to fall off.
Exactly.
Yeah, the numbers game.
And Google's smart enough now to realize relevancy. We all know Google understands it. So if it's a very irrelevant website, it's not going to add that much value, which makes the whole request even crazier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people doing, unfortunately, practicing bad practices or just.
And I'm going through blog comments, and the number of people who just compliment you with meaningless, empty phrases of thanks, expecting you to publish what they've written.
I see a lot of those on here. Yeah, they'll put something in there that's basically like, great job, and you did a great job. I agree, but yeah, it's, if it takes up space.
Yeah, but when they refer to me as the previous commenter, use that person's name. So
yeah.
you don't expect me to just delete that?
Yeah, no, that's true. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, how many comments do you get on average per post?
A couple of years ago, I had to have comments all automatically turned off after a year
Mm.
of posting them because people were posting comments on 5-year-old, 10-year-old blog posts.
Yeah.
It's like a great post on a 10-year-old blog post really doesn't excite me.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be difficult when you actually have a lot of high quality comments along with a lot of just, also kind, but not very helpful comments. Like, you don't want to be too rude to the people, but you want to definitely.
Some people take the time to bother to talk about themselves, introduce themselves, why they're unique, why they're different, what their opinion is, why it might matter, what an argument that they might have, a counter argument they might have.
Yep.
Placing any of those things makes a difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely, huge difference. I mean, especially for the reader as well.
Yeah.
They're going to get a lot more information out of it, a lot more context out of the what's happening, instead of just somebody saying, great job, great post, or something along those lines. I think that, yeah.
I don't mind reasonable questions either. If you don't understand something, ask a question.
All right.
Explain why you're asking it.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's one of the best ways to learn SEO, is just explain your thought process. How did you get to thinking that whatever it is that you think is correct or incorrect is that way?
Yeah.
It's much easier.
This is interesting. Have you written anything else about this?
Yep. And there are some people, like we witnessed on Twitter, I think a couple of weeks ago, that like to, I don't know if that guy was doing that for fun or what, but just, let's go, like, just, and I don't know if I imagine he was serious, but the guy was either crazy or just writing a bunch of gibberish that pisses everyone off because it's the wrong
have to
answer.
ignore those people. I mean, you can't.
Yeah,
Daddy and
that's what
emotionally
ended
or
up happening.
intellectually, because it's a big waste of time. I know that a few years ago, I really liked going to the SEM Rush webinars. They had some really interesting people, and they were very educational, and they welcomed questions. Sometimes they were kind of what I call over moderated, but that's okay. That the speakers at least had the information. They stopped doing the moderation, which I thought was a little more freeing to what they did. In the early days, they had a moderator. I've forgotten his name. Do you remember his name, Bill?
The SEMrush moderator?
Yeah, there was an SEM Rush moderator. But anyway, so I learned a lot. I learned a lot from those webinars, especially when it pertained to producing content.
Yeah, content quality is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people have an argument style, or a conversation style where they purposefully are antagonistic
Yeah.
Yep, they do.
to try to get other people to talk. And
Yep.
sometimes that isn't the best approach in the world to take.
No.
I think the best training for dealing with that was being on Google Plus, because those people would just pop in and try to start an argument.
Yeah. But Google Plus, rest in peace. But
Yeah,
I definitely, I feel the same. Like, I'm kind of glad it's not around anymore.
How long was Google Plus around, do you think?
I think about 2 years, maybe 3.
Started in 2011?
Did it
Ended
really?
in 2019?
Yeah.
Wow. I was way off on that.
Yeah.
No, I was very involved in Google Plus.
I had good hopes for it.
I did too.
I think it's a shame that they canceled
there's
it.
no place else where I found the type of conversation, the depth of conversation that happened on Google Plus.
And they canceled it because some of the big tech blogs were saying Google Plus is a ghost town.
Yeah.
I never saw any of those guys there.
Nope. I know. I was heartbroken.
Remember the whole thing? If you post on Google Plus, your site will go up in rankings. That was a lie that went around for a while.
There was the way that they used authorship meant that if you connected to somebody who was an author of something and they wrote something that was similar to something you queried about, their result would show up in your search results.
Mm-hmm.
For Google Plus, not for
Google Plus.
SERPs. Yeah, but not for the. It's that somehow got confused with, like, it'll show up in the SERPs.
It'll show up in your SERPs.
Yeah.
In your search.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that type of personalization.
Yeah, if I search Bill Salowski over and over again, like on I'll get my SERPs will be more likely to show anything with your name in it.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if we were connected in Google Plus, and then you searched for a topic that I'd written about in Google Plus,
it would give me your.
It's quite possible that what I had written about is something that would show up in your SERP.
That makes sense.
Right, because the Google Plus, the postings could show up in search.
Like Twitter.
Results. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was authorship, the way authorship worked.
Yeah.
Back when authorship had a photograph and everything. That was only a small. Actually, that was only for how long was that for?
That was for about 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have said 2 or 3 years on that too.
Yeah, but that's because you thought Google Plus lasted for 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know why. Geez, that's scary to think about. That's how long I thought it lasted for. Yeah, no, Google.
Some people used Google Plus a lot more than others.
Yeah, I was on there, but
I was a big user. One of the things I liked about Google Plus, this is way off the topic of SEO, sort of, is that you could compartmentalize your conversations. So you could have a general, list of people that you contacted with, but you could also set up special areas. So I had things about philosophy, and I had things about music, and you didn't have to follow me in particular to follow the music channel.
And people in different niches were using Google Plus in unique ways.
Yes,
like if you're a music teacher, you could hold classes on Google Plus.
Yep.
Where you had a channel dedicated just to your students.
Yep.
And you like videotape yourself playing the guitar or something and send it to all your students.
It was really quite phenomenal as a way for individuals to connect. I mean, I just think that Google got the data they needed and said, okay, we're done.
It was sort of like what Google did with Goog 411.
It's Google Currents right now is like
Yeah.
Google Plus. Have you guys played with that? Currents.google?
Is that for Google for work?
Yeah, for
Only?
for Google Apps or Google Workstation, whatever they're calling it this week.
So they haven't made it public.
No, unfortunately.
So I haven't used it. No.
It's because it's not public. It's very, very, very different from Google Plus, but it's the same technology, if that makes sense.
Right. I'd prefer it to be public.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a choice of like your company, and you do have anyone, your circles, extended circles.
I do have ways to connect with people from my company
Yeah, yeah,
already.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not very. Needed.
We've got a Slack channel. We've got a base. No, it's not Basecamp. We use ClickUp now. But we already have ways to connect.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the stuff I've posted.
What I enjoyed with places like Twitter and Facebook is that you can connect to people who you don't work with.
Mhm.
Yep, that's true. That's the real value there. I mean,
Yeah, I know for me, especially on Facebook, it's personal friends and family, but personal friends from who are geographically distant. You know, all my friends from the San Francisco Bay Area, and now my friends from Southern California. You know, and that's how I stay in touch with them.
Yeah, Facebook for close friends, Twitter for friends, and for people that you don't know. That's one thing I really like about Twitter is that you don't have to necessarily be following somebody or know of them at all to see what they're writing. But it's also very busy, quick, and short. Yeah. A lot of pluses and a lot of minuses, I guess, to Twitter. But I think there's no other system quite like Twitter, in my opinion, where you can Google Plus was somewhat like Twitter, where you could just follow. You didn't have to know who you wanted to follow to get in good content on the subject that you were looking for. But Twitter search is terrible. I'll say that. But it does seem to match pretty. Like what if you follow enough
for a little while when Topsy indexed Twitter, it was helpful.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
And then Apple bought Topsy and got rid of the Twitter index.
Hopefully, Apple will come out with Apple Search, and it'll be the best thing since
they did that 5 years ago.
But like for the web, for
they came out with Apple Search 5 years ago. They've been building their ability to index the web up.
Yeah, because
if you do searches on Safari, you can find out a lot more things about how it works.
Yeah, no, I like where you basically search you search like on your phone, for instance, and you type in, you can find things other than what's local on your phone. It will connect to Google or connect to other apps or anything else that is that what you mean?
I'm saying that they've been improving how search works at Apple through Apple as a search engine. Apple's taken on some of the approaches that Topsy developed.
Yeah, like look, if I start to type in SEO by the Sea, you start to see your Twitter profile, the website, and then other IBM that happens to be connected to an SEO by the Sea thing, and then other stuff that's relevant. So yeah, it will be nice if they actually come up with like an Apple /search type tool that would be an actual search engine similar to Google or Bing.
They do have an Apple search. They don't have an actual search engine that has a URL that you can go to directly. They do have search features in iOS that are search.
But they pull from other search engines.
It's sort of like Apple Maps versus Google Maps.
Yeah.
When Apple Maps first came out and you search for places a little bit too close to the Pacific, they would have you drive into the Pacific to get there.
Yeah.
They've since fixed that. It doesn't quite do that anymore.
Yeah. No, I remember Apple
and there are
Maps. was
people
horrible.
now who use Apple devices who are using Apple Maps as opposed to Google Maps.
Yeah, Apple Maps isn't that bad, to be honest. Like it used to be terrible, but now it's pretty good. Especially if you have Apple CarPlay, it defaults to that. So kind of it's if you don't use Apple Maps, it's you have to download Google Maps. I guess is the secret.
And Google Maps has its pluses and its minuses.
Yep.
It's like if I use Google Maps in Carlsbad, it's fine. If I go to La Jolla and I use Google Maps, I'm never going to get there.
Why? What happens? What, you go up the hill and then you're lost?
There's UCSD in La
Right.
Jolla, and they have places where they block off the roads with steel posts in the middle of the roads.
Right.
Google Maps doesn't show you that you can't drive through those steel posts.
I was like, Garmin used to be like that because I had Garmin when I first went to San Diego.
Yeah.
And Garmin would kind of forget that there was a big canyon in the middle of things, and it would be like,
Yeah, so I'm in La Jolla.
You get to this white fence and there's a canyon, and then it wouldn't tell you how to get around the canyon to get to the other side.
So I'm in La Jolla, and a friend tells me, okay, now tell Google Maps to look up the La Jolla Theater, and this place you want to go to is right next to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I put the theater in Google Maps, and it tells me go down this one road. I start going down the road, and there's three steel posts in the middle of the road blocking me from driving down the road. And Google Maps is telling me to keep on going straight. My car can't go anywhere.
I think like all of the systems like that, like I use I know like Apple Maps uses TomTom data. Remember those things used to stick them to your windshield, and Google Maps uses their own system, but like BMW navigation, which I rely on a lot, isn't going to show you roadkill like Waze, but still it seems like it gets a stronger signal. It will show you accidents and other things like that, and I think there's some advantages to having built-in navigation.
Some of that information from places like Waze are crowdsourced. They're relying on people to actually put that information into the system.
Isn't that what
Waze does that? Like there's a police car up ahead of you on the right. So
exactly.
Speed trap?
Yeah, it just lets you know that there's, and now Google Maps does that too now, apparently.
There's debris in the middle of the road ahead.
Yep, or there's roadkill.
In the left lane, right.
Yeah. Someone has to, like, I'm not the best on Waze as far as telling other people what I've seen, but there's enough people driving with it that they're pretty good at letting you know if there's a police car or anything like that ahead. And I think they tried to get rid of that police car feature because I don't know, it seemed like it was showing people where not to speed, but it's a nice feature.
I think that Google Maps is responsive to information if you send them information about what happened. They oftentimes ask if the directions got you where you wanted to go. I've forgotten the exact wording.
And some speed traps that are set up by the police are for deterrence purposes only.
Wait. Yeah.
It's like when they set up the display with the fake camera to get people slowed down.
Oh yeah. That always works.
But
Right.
I
So
can also remember,
Waze is doing it for you. You don't need people to see the fake camera to slow down.
right?
Yeah.
But I can remember also on Garmin, I think it was Garmin, being in France, where on the way to the airport with a rental car I had to turn in, and it was humongously awful traffic. And it was taking me through this neighborhood it was a sketchy neighborhood with sketchy groups of boys hanging out on the
Did Garmin
corner
tell you
even
that?
at 7 in the morning. And I got to this T, in the road, and it said à la droite, go to the right. And all the signs on the street said airport left. And I'm like, this has to be wrong. I turned left. I followed the signs. I got to the airport, turned in my car, and made it to my plane. But so I'm just recalling that those things weren't always trustworthy, and you had to use some kind of discernment and decision making while you were
So
using
when they tell you à la droite to the right
to the right
in
when
French,
everything is pointing to there were signs airport left.
I just had an interesting question asked by my friend Leif
but
Johnson.
I had that happen, and I had at one point in time I used some kind of way planning software. I don't remember the name of it. You'd list all the addresses that you needed to go to for the day, and then it would plan out your route more or less. So, and that thing was awful. I ran into roadblocks and 3 metal posts in the middle of the road and dead ends and all kinds of stuff. And then the same thing, it was like it told you how it got there their way, which was incorrect, but it had no way to direct you to a new way to get to where you wanted to go.
Yeah,
That was
sometimes you
very
have to turn them
frustrating.
off and on, back on again.
so Thomas, what question did you receive?
Oh, my friend Leif Johnson just asked, do you think A/B testing is bad for SEO? And
In ads?
requested, he just posted it right there.
So there's a tool from Google called Optimizely,
Yep, optimized for Google and optimized. Yep,
and that's worth using.
it is. But do you think? I think what he's asking is it bad for SEO? Is in like, will it show incorrect
If you're working with the website that doesn't get much traffic, you're using really small sample sizes, it's not
inaccurate?
going to be too helpful to do an A/B test
Yep.
because you're probably not got enough people there to make reasonable decisions.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, what do you think about canonicalization and it taking over the page for, like, if it's the home page or something like that, and if it is a site with enough traffic?
So I saw on Twitter somebody insisting that you connect tracking to all the URLs everywhere, and I
Like query
responded to
strings?
that with and canicalize all your pages so that all those tracking parameters don't steal all your page rank.
Yeah. Yeah, you should canonicalize all of your URLs, I think, by default anyway. But like, I agree. Like, if you put query strings at the end of every URL, you're gonna have a mess. If you
Yeah.
track every one of them, I think that'd be a hard thing to do. But I think in
If
general,
if you're the chief link builder of your site and you're linking to it with tracking sessions on every link,
yeah,
you're stealing page rank from your pages.
yeah, I agree. Leaf says we get about 10 million sessions per year.
It's hard to tell. It's like when Rand Fishkin was doing the zero-click search results stuff
Yep.
using Avast data, and most
Yeah.
of it undisclosed Avast data, hundreds of millions of devices where the people using the free antivirus software were never told we're going to use all your data to
Yeah.
for marketing purposes. So everybody using the Avast data was on Windows. So
Yep.
none of the Apple users were included.
It's a good point. Yeah.
So it was completely unscientific.
But if you're
study.
using like something like Search Pilot and you're doing A/B testing, and you're capturing all the users coming to your site, I guess the only way it could be bad for your SEO is if like, let's say you change the homepage or the product page and it doesn't do as well as and you have millions of sessions like this, and it doesn't do as well as the one that beats it out in multivariant or A/B. I would say that would be the only way it could hurt it. I don't think it would actually hurt your site to change the content of. It will tell you, your analytics will tell you if it would hurt your if you're hurting your SEO right away.
You would have some sense of how many actual visitors you receive to those pages.
Yeah, like Leaf, how many visitors are you getting for the pages that you're testing on average per month?
Right. Don't tell me domain, because there's no such thing as a domain score in search engines.
I think he's talking about a large e-commerce site that I.
So the Eisenberg brothers out of New York, they've written a couple books. One of the things they do A/B testing. They were working with a CD website, and there was a page about CDs for kids. And they had like 10 search boxes on the website, including the CD for kids page. And right next to the CD for kids page search box that searched the whole site was a image of a kid listening to music. So people didn't use that search box, even though it searched the whole site, because they thought it just returned CDs for kids.
Yep.
Mm.
So that may not have been the most popular page. It still got a lot of visits, and they still were able to pick out that maybe the reason why people weren't using that search box was because of the focus of the page being for kids.
Yeah.
So people didn't understand that the search box searched the whole CD site.
Right. Yeah. No. Like that would be basically an example of bad user experience or a bad graphic that depicts something.
But it's an instance where A/B testing and actual thought about the site, about the
Yeah, that would
page
have made a difference.
would be able to disclose that.
Yeah. So I think the answer is A/B testing is good for your site because
It can be, except when you're doing the testing on pages that don't get much traffic.
Yep. Yeah.
Because
then it's just luck of the draw.
20 idiots at the same, it's like 10,000 monkeys trying to type Shakespeare.
Yeah. No, that's accurate. I mean, if you get 10,000 visitors for that page in 2 days, then it's probably worth looking at the results. But if you get 20 visitors to that page, I agree. But if it's a site like
it's like using heat maps
to
see how people travel along a page. Do people scroll?
Yep.
Someone using a heat map to see if people are scrolling all the way down to the bottom of the page to click on any number of links. And I had one page where absolutely nobody clicked on any of the links at the bottom of the page because they thought the page ended before then, because there was a horizontal bar across the page halfway down. People didn't scroll past.
What do you think about the idea of blocking Googlebot from indexing experimental versions or redirects?
If you're relying upon Googlebot for search to your website, anything you do to harm Googlebot is to your detriment
Yeah, I agree with
and,
that.
and should be avoided completely.
So
Like
then I have
Googlebot.
a question. Why was there a horizontal bar across the page?
Because some designers like designing things where there are rules and they like lines. You know, they draw within the circles in the comic books
Yeah.
or the cartoons.
All right. Okay.
So
Looks like it should work.
15 years
right?
ago, Jacob Nielsen said users don't scroll. 10 years ago, Jared Spool, trying to one up everything Jacob Nielsen ever said users do scroll just so long as there aren't horizontal lines that go across the bottoms of pages that people stop at. And that's why it's worthwhile looking at all the UX stuff you could find instead of just listening to one person.
Yeah, it's so important.
So I like horizontal lines. I still scroll. That's just me and one person.
If you think you're at the bottom of the page, you
What do
stop
you like the
scrolling.
horizontal
Yeah,
line
if you think you're at the bottom.
at the bottom?
If you believe you're at the bottom.
So you have the horizontal line at the bottom because it's like a signal that says the end. Is that what you?
It's like when Google added the copyright notice at the bottom of their page.
Mm-hmm.
Because without it, it looked like the page kept on going, except it never did.
Okay.
So they added the copyright notice to the bottom of the page and people stopped scrolling.
Yeah, if you add the copyright notice and like the terms of service, I'm going to stop scrolling after that. You've definitely got me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do like horizontal lines that break up the way it looks. It's represented. I think that's a positive thing.
Right. But if you have more stuff at the bottom of the page and you're creating false signals that your page has ended earlier than it really has, people maybe aren't going to click on the links that you put at the bottom of the page because they think they already got to the bottom of the page, even though they didn't.
Got there, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
So I've seen that with heat maps where people make that mistake. They put horizontal rules halfway down.
I think
and
that
all their visitors stop scrolling.
Yeah, I think most people, from what I've seen with heat maps, it appears to me that most people stop scrolling about 60-70% down the page. It it depends on the length of the page a lot, but
Yeah, but if you have a horizontal bar before that 60 or 70%, then it's like a signal saying, okay, that was it.
so you think that's accurate? That one report that it is that one horizontal bar would do it?
I think it's accurate that a horizontal bar could convince people to stop scrolling down page. Yeah. And if you want people to continue to scroll down the page, get rid of the horizontal bar.
Yeah, have something that kind of points downwards or gives them the idea that they can keep going.
You can put a line of text. You can put images. You can do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Make the page look like it's continuing to go downwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's sort of like
Or even
progress bars for software loading.
Yeah.
Remember those
The little
programs that took a
Norton
long
blinking
time to load on a
squares.
computer
I like
and
progress
showed
bars.
the progress bars, which would tell you we're not done yet. Wait, hurry up and wait. Yeah.
Or are you talking about the ones that go across the top of the screen that show you like how
Yeah.
close you are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sort of
You're
like those.
at 70%. You're at 80%. You're at 90%. You're almost done.
What do you think of the ones that tell you how many words or how much time they think it is on average for you to read it?
I would prefer the progress bar. That would just
Yeah.
I would prefer the progress bar.
I take the time to read as a
Some people
challenge.
take the
No.
number of words left or the time to read left as signs that they're idiots,
hmm
and they call you on it. Do
Yeah,
you
I
think I'm
guess
stupid?
break out the stopwatch and say
Right.
took
So
me 2.5 minutes. It's a big
why
long
risk
thing.
that when a progress
Nine.
bar will give them the same information?
Very true. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Like I've I mean, it's nice to know how long, I guess, if your battery's dying or something like that on your phone, you want to read it, you've got a pretty good idea of how much time it will take the average user to read it. That's a decent thing, but I don't think that's very common. But I do agree. Like the progress bars is a nice feature.
It's still though that long ago. Remember reformatting discs and the little Norton blinking
I'm always reminded of walking into
rectangles, and you're waiting in
a
the
Blockbuster video when they switched from VHS tapes to DVD tapes, and somebody was at a table putting the stickers from the VHS tapes on the DVDs. And I stopped there. I said, that "Be kind, please rewind" sticker, you don't need to put that on the DVDs.
That's very true.
That's right. Yeah.
DVDs lasted. How long do you think DVDs were out? And they were the main form of getting seeing movies through rented movies, I guess.
So at least a couple years.
That's what I think too. But I think
I'm
the same
still
with-
seeing red box kiosks outside
Yeah.
of drugstores.
Yep.
But it's rare to find someone with a DVD player these days. It's a strange sight. I mean, it's not that strange, but it's pretty strange. I see more record players than I do DVD players in people's homes.
I see more DVD players than record players. I see DVDs for sale in the Walmart. I don't see records.
That's true. I think some people believe that records have the records have a clearer sound than a DVD, so like audio files, but who knows?
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I have an international all region DVD player because I have DVDs from various places in the world. And I still watch those DVDs on the DVD player because they're not available for streaming.
Yeah, no, there should be like a GitHub version repo like GitHub for people who have movies that are completely not very common movies that allow them to be streamed to the rest of the world, I guess. I guess that would require their approval, but something like that where people could purchase the right to watch or watch them for free based on a
or the way Netflix used to be, when they first started streaming.
Mhm.
And you could see, hi Carl, and you could see movies because you could still get the DVDs, right? And then because Netflix and its algorithmic wisdom decides which films they're going to continue to stream and which ones they're going to remove, So maybe there's a movie that was made 10 years ago and you want to watch it, but Netflix isn't streaming it anymore because it wasn't mainstream or whatever it takes for them to decide we're taking this away now.
Yeah, no, I I mean, I watched a movie on Netflix the other day in German. I was surprised that it was actually in German. Carl, sorry, I didn't mean to send you the wash your hands icon. I thought that was a wave. Um, um, but yeah, no, like I was happy to see that Netflix.
Oh, I
still
watch a
offered
lot
some-
of foreign films. So yeah.
But yeah, I agree that I agree. There's not a lot of foreign films out there, and there should be a foreign films streaming service. I'd be surprised if there isn't.
I saw a movie in German on Netflix recently.
One.
Das Boot. No.
No, it was the one about the company that Google Maps stole their ideas from.
Oh, I haven't
Oh.
seen that.
Oh, I heard about that, but I didn't watch it.
Terry Van Horn pointed that out to me.
Wait,
Hmm.
is it through a bunch of kids' eyes? It's a bunch of kids, right? And
No, it was a company that was created in Germany,
yeah, by a bunch
and they
of
were
kids.
teenagers when they started it.
Yeah, I watched that.
Yeah,
That was great. Yeah.
What's the name?
and
of
I
it?
didn't realize it was I could watch it in English too. So I
Das
started
Booty.
watching it, and it started in German.
Yeah, no, like that's another nice thing about all the streaming things is you can switch the language up to whatever you want.
Yeah, I ended up switching the language to English so I can understand it.
I usually try to play it in the original language, and then have the subtitles in English.
If it's in German, I'm okay with it. I'm not. It's not perfect for me every time, but if it's in, I tried to watch something in Dutch and I didn't understand it well enough, so I switched it back over to English. But there's a lot of Dutch stuff on Netflix now too.
Yeah, there is a lot of Dutch stuff on Netflix.
It seems like Amazon Prime, from what I can tell, has a lot of foreign films as well.
Hmm.
So Netflix has a series that's in German. A kid is the reincarnation of Thor.
Hmm.
Oh, really?
His brother's reincarnation of Loki.
Wow.
And one of the families in a place they move are all reincarnations of frost giants. And it's available in German. I started watching it in German.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix, yeah.
Apparently, MHZ Choice is the #1 streaming service for foreign and international content. It's $89 a year and $77.99 a month, but it works on everything. I'll put it up there if anyone wants to.
Yeah, I don't usually pick movies because of the language they're in. I don't pick streaming services because of the language the movies are in.
Yeah, no, me neither. It's whatever the movie's about. So yeah, like the Google Maps one was very interesting just because it was.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So I'm watching HBO Max these days, which has a lot of new movies.
Oh, I have to ask now that you're on HBO Max, have you watched Succession yet?
I haven't watched it.
You have a lot of good times ahead. It's a fantastic show.
But we're about past the hour of 1:11. It's maybe time to end for the day. Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
Take care.
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye now.
Bye bye.